So I start. All right. So just I'm going to do a brief introduction of Super Tuesday, what we do, things like that, and then I want to turn it over to you. You'll have about 40 minutes, and then 45 minutes or so, and then I'll open it up for questions, and then tell them what to expect on the back end.
Can participants engage in the chat during the webinar?
I do believe I have the chat in. Do I have the chat engaged? Yes, the chat is engaged.
Okay. For everyone. Good.
Yes, okay.
Because I can only message you and Janine, so I just want to make sure.
Okay, I just opened it up for everyone.
Okay, great.
There you go. Well, people will start coming in, and then we'll start right on time. It is 11 o'clock. All right. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Ty Woods, and I am the CEO of BusinessGrants.com, and you have just entered Super Tuesday. Every Tuesday for the month of April, we will be bringing you dynamic speakers who have done the work, who are in the trenches, and who can show you how to raise money. Now, last week, we talked about structure and how to get your organization prepared for 6 and 7 figure grants. But this week, we're going to focus on a different topic. Today, we're going to talk about individual and corporate donations and how to get your first $250,000 on the books. We have a dynamic speaker today, but before we talk about speakers, let's talk about housekeeping rules. You will have the opportunity to ask questions throughout the chat, throughout the hour. We'll be able to address some of those questions. But let him get through his presentation, and then we'll give you an open floor for you to ask your questions. We want to give you as much time as possible to answer those questions, to ask questions, and to get them answered. And if we do not get to your question, please still put it in the chat, and we'll try to get those questions answered to you and emailed over to you so that you can get the answers that you need. At the end of the day, guys, we want you to raise more money for your organization. That's the big goal. The ultimate goal of doing these series is so that you can earn and make more money for your organization and for your cause. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest speaker today. We have Dan Johnson, the CEO of Next Level Nonprofits, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about his journey and how he raised money, but he's also going to tell you how you can do the same. Give it up for Mr. Dan Johnson. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ty. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Let's do a quick chat check. Everyone who is attending, go ahead and drop the city that you are tuning in from in the chat. I want to make sure you guys are able to engage there, because we're going to be dropping resources and exercises and all kinds of stuff in the chat. I'm going to keep you busy for the next 40 minutes. I have been to hundreds of presentations, and the last thing that I want is staring at a boring PowerPoint all day long. Hey, we got McDonough, Georgia. Awesome. Ottawa, Philippines, Leesburg. Excellent. Excellent. And see, there you got your LA girl right there. LA tuning into the chat. Fantastic and welcome. So we can't do cameras on, so I'm going to go ahead and share. I have to send a request to share my screen. Nobody wants to look at my face for 40 minutes, Ty. So my story starts with this picture. Not necessarily the dollar that this is clearly from, but the capital in it. I started in politics. Everybody boo and hiss. It deserves it. But I started in politics because when I was growing up, I wanted to make a major difference on the world. I wanted to change the world. And I thought that politics was where that change was going to happen. And so I started my first organization, grassroots organization, at 18 out of my dorm room as a freshman. And and over several organizations, ended up in the highest echelons of politics, in those back rooms, the smoky back rooms that people like to talk about, the ones you can't say the names of. And I thought that there was where I had made it. This was 2016. And right around that time, Trump was running for his first term, and he had tossed out an idea of a child tax credit at a rally. And when the group got back together and started talking about what to do, I figured people were going to say, oh, well, we can't do that. We have different solutions in mind. But one by one, and this room was full of congressmen, this room was full of representatives of major think tanks. One by one, the people at the table just said, yeah, that's the policy now. And we're going to figure out how to get our piece of it. And I realized in that moment that there was no Oz behind the curtain, that the politics that I had sought to bring solutions to was not the source of solutions. But around the same time, I also connected with some community organizations, in particular, the Cajun Navy. And a friend of mine who knew that we were studying the Cajun Navy had asked me if I wanted to listen in on the emergency line. I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, how often do you get a chance to listen in to emergency rescues? And as the Cajun Navy was, rescuing people, the line was really busy. There was a lot going on. All of a sudden, a voice cracks on the line and says, we've got a 3-year-old hanging on the tree branch at the corner of such and such. I don't remember the street names right now. And we can't get to him. Can anybody assist? And the line went dead silent for like 3 minutes. And at the end of those 3 minutes, somebody came on the line and said, we got him. He's in the boat. We got him. We rescued him. And everyone breathed a sigh of relief. And I realized at that moment that the solutions that we want to see do not come from politics. They come from our communities. They come from the organizations we work with. I ended up working on the social media team of the Cajun Navy. We ended up like putting in zip codes of people and finding their addresses online, sending boats over to go rescue them. And you would get messages and DMs saying, hey, you just rescued my grandma. Hey, you just rescued my aunt. And I thought, this is why I got into politics in the first place. And now that's why I get into nonprofits. See, for me, this isn't just another job. I didn't grow up in the nonprofit sector. My family was not in nonprofits. This isn't just a, calling that I'm, interested in. This is a deep passion for me. And that is why I'm coming in front of you today to talk about raising your first $250,000. Now, if you've been to a lot of sales webinars, you've heard lots and lots of pitches. So I'm going to get mine out of the way so nobody needs to worry about it. Here's what I know if you're here. I know that you're passionate, deeply passionate about your nonprofit, passionate enough that on a Tuesday morning when you could be doing anything else, you're sitting here on this webinar listening to me. Here's the second thing I know. You don't have enough money. You haven't raised enough money yet to not have to be here on this webinar. But I also know a couple more things. I know that the nonprofit that you run makes a lot more difference than people understand. I know that if the people that you're speaking to about your nonprofit understood and could see the difference that you're truly making in people's lives, they would give you 10 times the amount of money they are right now, and they would be happy about it. And I know that either you have tried or plan to try, because most people in this space do, a fundraising method that will take you away from that impact and that will put barriers between you and your donor, such as fundraising events, social media, or selling products. I know you do that because you don't know how to ask, you don't know how to engage. I know you do that because you're not sure you're talking to the right donors. I know you do that because you're not entirely sure if your organization is worth what you need to be asking for. But in most cases, I think it is. And the final thing that I know is I know that there are people desperate in today's society, particularly coming from politics. I know there are people desperate to fund what you do. They look around them and they see anger and they see hate and they see negative news and they see the economy's going down and they see all of this stuff. And they just want to be able to believe in and be a part of the good. And if they could see the good that you offer, then they would be able to be a part of that. I believe that you as a nonprofit struggle to raise money because you're currently shouting help instead of showing people the impact that you're going to make. And what I want to show you is what happens when you focus your fundraising on the impact that you either make today or are about to make. And you engage your donors in that impact. What can happen to your organization? So let me get my pitch out of the way. If you want me to raise your first 250,000 for you, I'm 60,000. That's a year. It's 365 days. We get you to from 0 to 250 in 365. If you want to work with me for 90 days to raise either your first 15, your first 50, or your first 250, depending on what level you're at, that's 3,500. But today, if I can convince you that all you need is one vision, one project, and one campaign to 5 times your revenue at your nonprofit, if I can convince you of that, all I'm asking for is $250 to get on a call with you and your board and lay out the exact roadmap of how your organization gets from 0 to 15, 15 to 50, or 50 to 250. Does that sound fair to everyone? See? All right. Cool. So what does that look like? If you decide to run with this thing and you decide to go all in, here's what that looks like. A couple examples. So Cibus Mission, they're one of the organizations that we've been working with this year. Their 2023 revenue was 1,700. They went to 10K, 5.8 times growth. Atheists for Liberty went from 23 to 54, 2 times growth. Battle to Be went from 40,000 to 232,000. Good Neighbors, little larger organization, 46% growth, 241,000 in 2023, 354,000 last year. These are all our most recent clients that we've engaged. So let me tell you what your problems are as a nonprofit leader, depending on where you stand. If you're currently sitting at $0 to $15,000, you don't know who to ask, you don't know where to find people to ask, and you don't know how to ask. If you're sitting at 15 to 50,000, you are having donors only giving you money once. You're getting small gift amounts, maybe 1,000, maybe 100, something like that. And you're having a lot of donors say they want to give you money, but not actually following through. You may or may not have a system for actually bringing in donors on a regular basis. And if you're between 50 and 250,000, you're struggling to balance time between all the fundraising you're doing and the programs you have. You're also struggling because you're working basically full-time at your nonprofit, but you're not yet drawing a salary. If you're in any of those categories, this presentation is for you. Let me ask a question before we get started. I've always found in doing this work that mindset matters more than anything else. So in the chat, and I wish I could see you, but we'll just do the chat for now. In the chat, I want you to tell me, what do you think is the most harmful mindset in nonprofit fundraising? What is the way that people trip themselves up? What is the thing people believe that is false in fundraising? I'll give you a second to drop that in the chat. That fundraising is difficult. It's hard. Okay. That you have a closed mind to your donors. 100% agree. Yep. Nobody wants to give to you. You have to know people. Absolutely. Absolutely. These are all self-defeating beliefs about fundraising. And some of them are covered by these, but let me introduce you to 3, to me, of the most important ones. Number 1, impact, not charity. The vast majority of nonprofits today measure their success not by the impact they make, but by how frugal they are. You talk constantly about how little money you spend on things. You make sure you get everything the absolute cheapest. You make sure that every dollar goes to program. You're not going to hire anyone for any reason in any place, because you define yourself as the way that people recycle their garbage. If you're a charity that defines itself by turning the leftovers, the garbage, into something beautiful, just remember this, that if volunteers think that they're getting involved in your organization because it makes charities operate based on feel good, basically. So people join your organization because it makes them feel good to give. You engage because it makes you feel good to give to people. But if volunteers come to your organization because it makes them feel good, they'll only show up when it makes them feel good. If donors come to your organization when it makes them feel good, they'll only show up when they feel good. If your team only engages in the organization when they feel good, they'll only show up when they feel good. I want you to change your mindset. I want you to think about the impact that you have instead of the charity. I'll give you a real quick exercise. I want you, after this is over, I want you to sit down and think about, what is the dollar value of the impact you create? Let's take a youth entrepreneurship organization, for example. If you're a youth entrepreneurship organization, you help young people start businesses. And let's say that you have 100 young people go through your program. Only 10 of them start a business, only 2 are successful. But those 2 businesses have 10 employees each out of 100 young people. Those 2 businesses at 10 employees each are probably $250,000 to $500,000 businesses. So $500,000 to $1 million of impact that you made on the economy. You expand that out to all of the different impacts that business has on people. You're easily looking at $1 million to $10 million of impact that you're creating, and that is worth it. Your organization needs to be measured by its impact and not by how frugal you are. Second is partners, not donors. Everybody thinks of donors as a cash ATM. They think of donors as a place you go to get money. But I want you to understand that donors give to you because they can't be you. Donors want to be you. They want to be on the front lines. They want to be helping with this problem. They want to be engaging with this problem, but they can't. So they give you money instead. And when you treat them like an ATM and you go to them and you ask them for money and you never talk to them again, they don't get that opportunity. And that's why they're giving to you in the first place. Partners, not donors. And finally, start small, not big. If you are getting your organization off the ground, people are taking a bet on you when you're small. And you want to make that bet as easy to take on you as possible. The number of people who I've engaged who were trying to raise funds for a building right out of the gate, or we're trying to raise funds for a van right out of the gate, or we're trying to raise funds for a never-ending program right out of the gate. It's a risk for somebody to give you money when you're small. So make it as little of a risk as possible, and you will raise more. You will raise more with a $10,000 project than you will raise with, or $10,000 ask will raise you more money than a $50,000 ask when you are small. So those three mindsets are really important if you're going to raise funds. Mindset 1 is about you. Mindset 2 is about your donors. Mindset 3 is about your projects. What do you need once those mindsets are in there? What do you need in order to raise funds, basically? Sorry, I have a newborn at the house, so a little bit of fuzzy-headed. You need one vision, you need one project, and you need one campaign. I'm sure you've heard diversify your fundraising. Bullshit. Not at this stage. You need the simplest fundraising possible at this stage, particularly if you are 250,000 or less. Whether it's individual fundraising, if you're past that point in your organization, you're adding individual fundraising, okay, you start with this kind of thing. But if you're under 250,000 as an organization, you need one fundraising campaign. You cannot manage multiple. One vision, one project, one campaign. Why one vision? If donors give to you because you make an impact, and you are doing this nonprofit in order to make an impact, then donors will not give to you if they cannot see the impact that you have, or the impact that you will have. And that is why the first thing you need is what I'll call the perfect donor pitch. The perfect donor pitch has 5 pieces to it. And anytime you engage with and talk with a donor, you're going to go through these 5 pieces. 1 is your personal story. You saw me do it at the beginning of this conversation. And your personal story, actually, I'm going to go to the end real quick and show you all of them. There we go. And your personal story is how you start out any conversation that you can talk about your nonprofit, because people are attracted to stories. Number 2 is the problem that you solve. Number 3 is your unique mission. What makes your approach to this problem different than every other nonprofit this donor's ever heard of? And 4 is what is your vision for the future? And 5 is what is your call to action? Now, let's go through each of these and help you assess how your donor pitch is right now. So let's start with the personal story. Oh, they're not on the screen? Thank you, Kendra. Like I said, newborn tired. There we go. A good story. Is your story personal to you? Here we go. Let's go back to the 4, actually. Here we go. Here you go. You can take a screenshot of this screen if it's helpful. This is the perfect donor pitch. This is what you use anytime you engage with a donor. This is what you can use even when you're being interviewed on public broadcast media. This is the pitch about your organization. Personal story, problem you solve, unique mission, vision for the future, and your CTA. So let's go back to each of these. Personal story. Just use this to assess how your pitch is right now. Is your story that you're telling at the beginning of talking to donors personal to you? Does it actually mean something to you? The story I told means something to me. Does your story mean something to you, or is it just rote and routine about your organization? Is your story vivid, and does it get you emotional? Are you skipping over the parts of your founding story where it hurt because that's vulnerable and you don't want to show that? Talk about the parts that hurt. Talk about the parts that make you excited. If you're not getting emotional about it, your donor's not going to buy in. Number 3 is it follows this framework. Who I was. So I was in politics. What I saw the Cajun Navy rescuing people in Texas. Why there is a need. There is no other organization doing this kind of work. I skipped that part. There's no other organization doing this kind of work. And what am I doing about it? I am, starting this organization. We're doing these things, doing this project, and it's under 3 minutes. Assess your story and how you engage your donors based on this rubric. The second is the problem that you solve. Now, you'll spend more or less time on this section depending on how well the donors or the potential donors understand your problem. But the problem that you solve has a few key pieces. Number one, do you have a key statistic? This is anytime you're being talked to about your nonprofit and you don't have time to tell your story, this is what you tell them first. 45 natural disasters occur every year in Texas, the most of any state, for example. You need a key statistic, a shocking number, something that says my problem is important and needs to be solved now. Do you have that? Are you using the language of the people you serve when talking about your problem? It's one thing to talk about your problem in your language, but it's going to resonate a lot better if you're talking about the problem from the perspective of the people that you serve. And this is talking about a homeschool organization. Parents feel like they're failing their children. What words are they using to describe the problem that you solve? Because if you use those words, anybody who's ever been in that position will immediately latch onto you. Number three, it talks about the three major harms. It's not just the problem, it's also the harms of the problem. So major disruption in commerce, billions of dollars in damage, lost lives. Sell me on why your problem needs to be solved now. How are you currently doing? Then let's go on to your unique mission. Everybody and their brother has a mission statement, but I'm here to tell you the mission statement is responsible for one thing and one thing only. What makes you different? Why should I give money to you when there's 1.5 million other nonprofits out there? So check your unique approach and see how it matches. Does it include only 3 steps? The number of people who I've talked to who try to tell the donor 7 steps as to what in the hell is going on with their organization, it's crazy. Humans are simple creatures. We can only follow a few steps. Can you explain your 3-step process or your process to get people from the problem you solve to where you want them to be in 3 steps? And number 2 is, does it include why your approach is unique? This is important. See, if I tell you that I rescue food from local businesses and serve the public with it, or pick up food and surplus food from local businesses and serve the public with it, you're like, food bank. Everyone does that. If I'm like, we rescue surplus food and deliver it to people who can't get to a food bank, including seniors, blah, blah, blah. Now that's something different. Oh, okay. There's a unique group of people you serve there. What is unique about, are you including what is unique about your organization compared to other organizations that are solving the same problem in what you do? So the fourth is your vision for the future. Your vision for the future should be the exact opposite of the problem. So we're going to reduce the cost of disasters in Texas. Do you have your problem, you have your vision. Is your vision the exact opposite, or is there a misalignment? If there's a misalignment, that tells you that you either haven't selected your most important problem to solve yet, or you don't know how people's lives are better afterward. This needs to be the exact opposite of the problem you solve. Number 2 is, does it have 3 key benefits to it? I don't just understand what a veteran with PTSD gets out of ending being suffering under PTSD. You might say, oh, we're going to help veterans get overcome PTSD. Okay, great. That's awesome. But people might not know what that means. You have to say, we're helping veterans overcome PTSD, meaning that they can have lives of safety, opportunity, and peace, because they can go to the fireworks now with their kids. They can get a job. where there's loud noises. They can exist at home with their partner without feeling like their partner's attacking them. Are you talking about how this benefits other people in your vision? And finally, measurable. You want to know how to eliminate bureaucracy at your nonprofit like this? Give yourself a measurable goal. And donors know that too. So are you measuring yourself when you're talking to donors that we're going to reduce the cost of disasters, I should say by 50%. We're going to reduce the cost of disasters in Texas 50% in 7 Texas communities by 2028. Now that's real. That's measurable. That's something you can be held accountable to. And that's the kind of thing a donor is looking for. And finally, your CTA. There's a couple, the CTA, like if you do the other stuff right, the CTA doesn't matter quite as much. But for sake of argument, let's use the CTA. Here are some quick tips on the CTA. When you ask a donor for money, you should focus on impact. I like to do this. So instead of asking someone for $3,000, I ask them, we have an opportunity to save 10 lives in our community during the next disaster by building this levee or whatever for $3,000, and that will cost $3,000. Would you help us save 10 lives in our community next year? I really, yes, CTA, call to action. I really like looking at it from the donor's perspective. The donor's not giving you money to give you money. The donor's giving you money for impact. So I ask for impact, and money is the cost to do that. And finally, shut up. Once you ask for money, you will feel like you need to justify it more. You'll feel like you need to say more. That silence is the longest awkward silence in your life, and you shut the hell up. The next person who talks loses. Okay. If you want my 10 points of clarity that asks these questions, you can hit that QR code on screen. If you go to that QR code, it goes to a Google Doc. Just save it as something for yourself, and you'll get the 10 points of clarity that walks you through these questions and helps you come up with better answers than you have right now. But I'll give people a second. If you want to QR code that, then you can go to that document. But moving right along. Okay, so we have one vision. Confused customers don't buy. We've eliminated confusion. Now the donor knows exactly what they're giving to and exactly why they should be giving. They understand it, and doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something that makes sense. Second is, what is our call to action, though? Well, here's what most nonprofit call to actions are. I have this program and we want to help these kids. We want to do all of these things. And we're really hoping you support my organization. Donors don't give an F about your organization, particularly donors you've never met before. They could care less if your organization lives, dies, or falls over on the sidewalk. Donors care about the impact. And also, donors are not particularly interested in taking a huge risk on a new organization. There was one of the people who I worked with. He had a very wealthy network. He was a marketing executive out of Massachusetts. He knew tons and tons of people with lots and lots of money. And he was referred to me by one of my clients because he was saying, I'm going to these people, they're nodding their head and they're saying, yeah, this sounds really important, but they're not giving me any money. And they're like wealthy enough to give me 10 grand and they wouldn't even think about it. Why are they not giving me money? And so we looked into his ask. And what he wanted to do is he wanted to build an app for voters to be able to look up their representatives and their positions and be able to tell their representatives what they thought through this app. And it was going to cost about $1 million. Is that something his network could have funded? Absolutely, no question about it. However, his ask was too damn high. And because it was so high, it increased the risk of investing in the organization like this. And that is what you're doing when you ask for a building and when you ask for a van and when you're going out and when you're going out and asking for money just for the organization and not for something specific, you're raising the risk of that donor engaging. And you end up having fundraising that looks kind of, should have a slide for this, but you end up having fundraising that is kind of like a Walmart. You're the donor. I want you to put yourself in the donor's perspective here, right? You're a donor. You're interested in this organization. You're interested in what it does. And it's like walking into Walmart and you got a really friendly greeter at the front. And they're telling you all about the products in the store and how amazing it is. But as you walk through the Walmart, you realize that there are no prices on anything. And there are black boxes around all of the products. Huh. And then they get to the end of the visit at the store and they're like, would you like to support the organization? Like to give us money? And you go, for what? And when? And how? And what? And if they like you, if the breeder was friendly enough, you'll get a couple pennies. But if you change that and go back to that mindset one, impact over charity, we're about impact. We're going to deliver impact to the donor. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do impact project. An impact project is a time-limited, dollar-limited project that makes a real impact on the people they serve, delivers the donor what they want, which is impact, and it helps our organization gain massive momentum. The things that you saw earlier were primarily, from my clients, were primarily the result of implementing one impact project. Why does this work so well? First of all, let's talk about what kind of impact project you can do. So these things, impact project can be completed in 90 to 180 days, 15,000, 50,000, or $250,000 a piece, and makes a real impact on those you serve. Now, how do you know what kind of impact project you should do for your organization? If the $15,000 is you have $15,000 in the 0 to 15, you do a $15,000 project max. That's your dollar limit max. Max 15,000, max 90 days. Excuse me. If the organization has had less than $15,000 of revenue consistently coming in year after year, if only been around for 1 year, you just have to assess, did you get lucky or is it as a result of actual fundraising? If you got lucky, then you need to keep that 15,000 mark and do not go higher. But if you've not made yet $15,000, if you have not yet made $15,000 in a year, you're going to do a $15,000 project. If you've consistently made $15,000 over a couple of years, but not yet broken the 50,000 mark, you're going to do a $50,000 project. If you've consistently made over 50 the past couple of years, but not broken 250, you're going to do a $250,000 project. These are, again, taking into account donor risk and donor engagement. Now, why this works is it makes everything concrete. So look at some of the examples of some of the projects that have been done. So this project, the organization was a youth organization that was targeting young people and reaching them with messages of reason. So they created a college tour. They went from raising about 10 to 20K total to raising about 28,000 with this tour. Domestic violence escape route, 90 days, help 3 women in Gary, Indiana escape domestic violence and find permanent housing. There was a couple others that were supposed to be in there too, but the general gist is do an event if you want to have a building. Do an event instead. If you want to help a lot of people, help a small number of people. If you want to do something that takes a long time, do something that is done quickly. Create an impact project that has a defined date, a defined amount of money, and makes a real impact on the people you serve. And all of a sudden, there are products at Walmart. You have a product for the donor to buy. So a good impact project reflects your vision. So directly addresses the problem, uses your unique approach, and contributes to the vision. Before you launch your impact project, you're going to want to talk to your current donors and get some input. I like coming up with a couple ideas and getting their input on it. And they have a formal proposal. So you're actually going to put a document together and get that project. Now, if you want a template for what an impact project actually looks like, then you can go to this QR code right here. So if you tap on this QR code with your phone, this will take you to Broccoli for 32. This is my made up foundation, the Broccoli for All Foundation. and it gives you all of the pieces you need in an impact project so you can create one yourself and create a proposal. And the last piece that you need is you need one campaign. So for your campaign, you're going to do three things. So you got your vision, got one vision. You have your impact project, one project, and you have one campaign. You do three things. Number one, you build your list. If you have current donors, we're going to start with them and talk to them about why they give and understand the donors that are already attracted to you. If not, we're just going to add prospective donor groups. Who are the kinds of people who might support your organization? We're going to add marketing channels. So how are we going to reach these people? My three favorite ways to reach people are in-person, mass media, and then only third, social media. You will get so much more out of going in person to reach people. So we'll add those marketing channels. Then we're going to launch the campaign. If you need a bigger donor list than you have, and in a lot of cases, organizations have all the donors they need. They just need to ask them for more money. But if you need a bigger donor list, then the campaign launches. You go to conferences, go to meetings, go and talk to people in person if you can. And secondarily, you go to mass media to reach them. But a lot of this is going to be done in private. It's going to be one-to-one asks, you and the donor. I think I mentioned at the beginning that one of the qualifications for doing this kind of work, especially with me, is you have to be bold enough to talk to donors yourself. If you're not bold enough to talk to donors yourself, maybe your organization isn't as important as you think it is. But if you're bold enough to talk to donors yourself, they will be bold enough to reward you. And the final piece of this is impact reporting, which includes your follow-up system. 85% of donors will give after the first 90 days. As long as you are following up with them, letting them know how things are going, letting them know about the impact you're making, 85% will give after 90 days. And making sure that you're doing reporting, you have a basic survey of some kind that you're engaging people with, and you're taking pictures and video that you can use and let your donors know about. So that's it. That is the simple, straightforward way to fundraise $250,000. It leans into who you are as an organization, the impact that you're creating, invites donors to be a part of that, and runs a formal campaign with an end date to get people excited about your organization and willing to take that first risk. Now, I don't know if I've convinced you, and I'm hoping to hear your questions. But at the beginning, I said that if I can convince you that this is the way to raise $250,000, I'm not going to ask for 60. I'm not going to ask for 3. If you give me $250, I will meet with you and your board and create a roadmap for you to get from 0 to 15, 15 to 50, or 50 to 250. And you guys will have all the pieces that you need, including your specific, I'll look over your pitch, make sure it's good, identify the exact donor groups who will support you, look over your proposed project or help you brainstorm one, and talk about suggested ways to measure and report that impact. As far as I know, this is the simplest way to do fundraising in nonprofits, and that's part of why it works. I look forward to your questions. The QR code will take you to my page to schedule a call with me. And let's rock and roll.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And everybody give a virtual hand clap. This was amazing. I hope you all took some time to take notes. By the way, the video will be posted by tomorrow for those who are currently in our cohort, and then those who are not, you will be sent a link to access the community, businessgrants.com community, where you could pay to watch the video later on. The access to the community is only $9 a month, so you can definitely right now get access for almost $40 discount. All right, so we also have the strategy link for we also created a link too, just in case. So
Okay.
we have a link that if you pay through our link, we make sure that he gets the everything, and he will reach out to you. But if you see that he posted another link there for his strategy session, that is definitely what you want. Now, if you are in the cohort, don't worry, you guys are going to be covered. We have these speakers are all friends of mine, guys. And so that's why it is so important to be a part of a mentorship program that is going to get you from A to Z, someone holding your hand. Now, I know that you're probably like, oh gosh, here's another pitch, but it's not about a pitch, it's about help. If you are not a part of the businessgrants.com CEO Society, this is for you. This is the nonprofit CEO Society. Those who have for-profits, we have the Founder Society for you. Everyone needs someone who's been there to help you get to that place where they are or surpass them. And both of us have raised millions of dollars for our nonprofits, and we've been there. We've been there where we were scratch with zero, with no donor base, and we had to build it from scratch. So if you need that type of support, then this is the reason why you need a mentor. So I urge you, if you would want to be a part of the CEO Society, the Founders Society, all of these programs, mentorship programs, number one, you have to be the CEO, mentor, or a founder. And the reason why is because we're asking you to make structural changes as well as, and your board has to be a part of this as well. That's why he said meet with you and your board. Why is that? Because your board, they're the ones that, number one, they're your first donors. They're the one, if your board is not donating, you have the wrong board. I'm just going to tell you. They're probably friends of yours. They're probably really nice people. And I get it. You don't want to ask them for money, but that is not the purpose of the board. That's why it's important to know what the functionality of a board really does. Why is it that you have to have a board, and what's the role of the board? The governance is such an important key, but we're going to talk about that in May. We have that on the May structure, Super Tuesday. Board governance is actually week 1 or week 2. I will be putting out the May schedule by Friday, but board governance is so critical that we had to make an entire classroom about it. Okay, so you have to have a board of directors. If you do not, just please reach out. We'll just ask us what do you need to do, and we'll give you some tips on how to build your initial board, your founding board. Okay, if you don't have a board yet, and you still want to meet with Dan, I would say get your board first, and then you all go and meet with Dan. And that's important because you can't do this by yourself. You cannot do this by yourself. I know you want to. You think you're a superhero of this and you want to be Superman or Superwoman and do it all by yourself, but you will get burnt out and you will be tired and you will shorten your life and the lifespan because you're trying to do everything yourself. That is not sustainable, is not healthy. And I am talking about somebody who had actually ended up in the hospital from a panic attack that I thought I was having a heart attack. So I'm talking from experience, not just from a pie in the sky. Okay. So if you need that type of support, then please reach out to us. I am going to put the link to reach to how we got this here. I got the link here. Okay, well, I don't know if we have the link to join our cohort available, but what you can do is send an email to info@dev180, that's DEV180.com, info@dev180, and we will send you the information to sign up to be mentored. And the mentorship, even though it's 90 days, you have access to us for the full year, but the structured program, 90 days is what we need to get you from point A to fundraising and to get you funds in started. You just got to get funds started coming in, okay? All right. Thank you all. Does anyone have any questions? We have 10 minutes. So I would urge you to pick his brain while you don't have to pay $250 right now. So, questions, anyone? Questions. This is the opportunity for you.
And I just want to say, for those of you who are signing up, I see it, and I will be getting with you, and you will get me for longer than these 10 minutes.
All right. So does anyone have any questions? And if you need a few seconds to format your question, I do have a question. So my first question is, if you do not have contacts, like some people like to stay to themselves and they don't really have a lot of friends, what would you say would be the first step in growing your donor base, your individual donor base?
Yeah. So if you have, I'm echoing on your end, just FYI. So if you have a, let's say that you got your pitch mostly together, but you don't have a network, you don't know anybody at all. So there are 3 ways that you can go about that. First way, go to meetings, man. Go in person. Go to Chamber of Commerce, have networking events. Political parties have meetings that you can go to. Go to your community calendar. Just put in your community. I don't care what kind of podunk town it is. The vast majority of communities have a community calendar. Go in there, find an event that looks like it is a little bit expensive, so like $50 by community terms, and go. Show up. Go meet those people. My number 1 thing would be go in person. Number 2 is, if you can't go in person, you can't make it happen, then go on social media and go into groups. So find Facebook groups around the kind of work that you do and just introduce yourself. Don't go, oh my God, give me money. That's not going to happen. Go introduce yourself. Hey, here I am. Here's my pitch. Here's what I'm doing. And then finally, if none of that works, then you can post on your own social media. But I strongly recommend going in person, go network, go meet people. Until you have 15 people that you know who like your idea, you probably shouldn't be trying to take off too much with your nonprofit.
Wow, that's very actionable. And for some of you who maybe you don't have that outgoing personality, well, you go with your talking points, practice in the mirror. I will say, if you don't know a lot about public speaking or talking to people, practice with your spouse, practice with other people that could tell you the honest truth. Like, know your mission. At least know your mission statement, guys. At least know your mission statement. If you're stumbling over your mission statement, so because what people are going to ask you is, oh, so what does your business do? And if you're saying, we kind of serve people in the community, and we be helping people, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, nice to meet you. I'm not giving you $10,000. You don't even know what you do. You don't even know what you do. I don't even know what you do. So that was really good. Being intentional about going to in-person events. I know that's been a challenge for me and for my husband. We like worked so much in the business that we wasn't working on the business, and so I had to be intentional about joining these different groups. I also, there's a couple of other groups I want to throw in there. Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs. You have to be invited by a current member, but if you know somebody who is, now I say those clubs because they have a lot of established members in there, meaning like members who are not struggling financially, because you have to have a financial commitment in order to be in that club. So it's really important to think about civic groups, civic clubs. That's a really great way to build your network, your individual donor network, and just your network as a whole, so people know who you are. When you walk in a room, you should be associated with your organization. They say, "Oh, that's Dan with Next Level." And sometimes it gets to the point where, like, I walk in the room and I'm still being associated with my nonprofit I left a year ago, but it's still like, oh yeah, that's tied with opportunity, because that's the organization that we started 17 years ago. So yes, make sure that you are emailing us if you have any additional questions or you want to sign up.
So let me toss this out. So Tracy asked, she mentioned she's a beginner, but she secured 100K in 4 months. Congratulations. Yes. Awesome work. You'll have to share with the class at some point. But my question to you guys, how do you guys feel about your elevator pitch? You feel like your elevator pitch is pretty good? Because I've got a couple tips for your elevator pitch that I've used in a couple thousand situations. So I'll give you that because I'll give that out because I find it makes the most instant impact on people because they're talking about their nonprofit all the time. But only if people say they want it.
Do it.
If I don't got anybody in the chat saying they want it, I'm not going to give it out.
Oh, come on, guys. Come on, guys. Put it in the chat. Say yes. Do it. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We got one person there.
Got at least one.
Yes.
So, and we'll have, when we do another one of these in the future, Ty, we'll have to do one where videos can be on or something like that. I love the human interaction if we can, or audio.
Okay. At least. Well, we're going to be doing the in-person, we played in the in-person conference.
That's true.
This was just leading. This is going to lead up to our in-person conference, which, by the way, is going to be the fundraising haven. When I tell you what I'm curating, you guys are not going to want to miss it. And it is definitely going to be the place where you need to be to learn about everything, raising money. And I'm talking about millions at that point, because we're going to have some for every level, some for grassroots, for mid-size, and for the $1 million organization. So no one gets left out.
Yeah. So just to answer your question, Angela, I'm echoing again. Just to answer your question, Angela, I think you'd probably want to shoot me what your question is, because there are very distinct differences between nonprofits and for-profits. And a lot of what I offer leans into what makes nonprofits different. And really hammers on that. But if you have a question around how it could apply to for-profit, just shoot me an email. I'll drop my email in here so you have it. Cool. Okay, so the 2 tips that you can take away for the elevator pitch. One is, if given the opportunity, if you have time, always tell your story. Always. When somebody asks what you do, I don't want to say they don't care, but they're not really all that into it. What will make them buy in is if you tell your story. What do you do? And you say, what do you do? You're on an elevator and they're running away from you. Well, you might need to get shorter, but anytime you can, tell your story. Even if you completely F up the entire rest of your pitch, as long as you told a good story, you're fine. The second thing is, if you don't have time to tell your story, respond with the stat that makes your problem relevant. So, hey, what is it that you do? Well, did you know that what was a stat I heard recently? Did you know that while most elderly Americans are sent to in-home care, in-home care reduces the lifespan of elderly Americans by about 5 years. What? Oh, or sorry, assisted living, whatever. But who's sent into assisted living reduces the lifespan of these people by 5 years. Whoa. And then you can tell them, all about your organization. But start your response with either a story or a stat, and I guarantee you, you will get some more eyeballs on what you do.
Well, that is perfect timing because it is 11:59 and we don't have time for any more questions. However, you all know that if you have any additional questions, put his email in the chat. Just send it over. But also, you have the strategy link as well. Look, I want to say thank you so much, Dan. This was an amazing class. And those who did not attend, because we have way more people that signed up for this class. Those who did not attend missed out. But we're going to give them the opportunity to watch it later through our community. And I want to say thank you all for sticking in there the entire time. And I hope that you got something out of it. And to answer even with Angela, every business has a story. Every business has a story, even for-profit or nonprofit business. You got to get familiar with what the story is for you and the why for you, because that's the only thing that's going to be personal for you. The stats is also going to help solidify your why. So your story, your stats, those are the key elements in any pitch, which is why even on Shark Tank, watch Shark Tank. Listen, you're going to hear the story, you're going to hear the stat. And that's because it's a part of, it's a formula that works. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
See you next Tuesday, where we have on the call next week is going to be Miss Mary, who is the Major Gifts fundraiser. This lady, she gets $1 million single donors. You need to be here next Tuesday to find out how she's able to land these major gifts. See you next Tuesday.